So for those of you that watch my channel, you know I play drums. I work on little projects, I do cover songs, I work on lessons, but I've never actually played drums in a band. I only ever played in a band once, many years ago, and I played rhythm guitar. And let me tell you, I was a terrible guitarist, and I still am today. That band was called Faded Soul. Faded Soul got its start sort of late 2003 in a small town called Kingsville, Texas. And in my time capsule, there are loads of things related to Faded Soul. I played with that band for maybe about a year, maybe a little bit longer. And the band actually kind of started a little bit before me and carried on a little ways after me. But I thought before I shared some of the little creative projects I worked on with the band, I'd give you some context and maybe a little bit of history. So in 2003, I found myself in Kingsville, Texas. For those of you not familiar, Kingsville is a sort of smallish town about an hour south of Corpus Christi. It's probably famous for two, maybe three main things. That would be a naval air station that's located there. There's also sort of a mid-sized university. And it's also probably the most famous for the King Ranch. And really the ranch itself is huge, so it's sort of just adjacent the town of Kingsville. As the story goes, I had moved to Kingsville, Texas for work. And this would have been sort of circa 2000, late 2003, early 2004. And at work I met a guy named Lee. His actual first name I think was Edward. People called him Lee, but then people actually called him Leeser. That became his nickname. Now Leeser, he had gotten into sort of singing, songwriting, playing guitar, and he had met two other guys, Dustin and Lee. And Dustin and Lee had worked for a telecom company, and they were over at Leeser's apartment installing cable or internet or something, and those guys all started talking, and as it turns out, Dustin plays guitar and Lee plays drums. So they started talking with Leeser, and before you know it, they started playing together. And at work, I was talking with Leeser, and he was talking about how he wanted to focus on singing, and he didn't want to have to play guitar while he was singing. And I had been playing guitar for a little bit, since college, a couple years before, and I said, well, I can strum some chords if you want. And so he invited me over to their practice. We played together a couple of times, and before you know it, I joined. And at the time, or shortly thereafter, Dustin's wife's brother, a guy named Danny, had moved back to Kingsville, and he got deputized as the bassist. So come late 2003, early 2004, Faded Soul started out with Leeser as the singer, Dustin is the lead guitarist, Lee as the drummer, Danny is the bassist, and yours truly as the rhythm guitarist. And so thus started, I think, pretty much Faded Soul. And we started playing and practicing together. We originally practiced at my house because I actually had a drum set up at my house. I had kind of started flirting with the idea of learning drums a little bit before that. And we played a few shows, and we actually went to a studio and recorded a demo. So late 2003, 2004, back then I think rock was still kind of king. It's a little bit different now, or at least that whole thing is going through changes, like any period. But you had bands like Creed, Three Doors Down, Nickelback, Evanescence, The Killers. These were very popular Billboard Top 100 acts, and I think those bands were very influential for the band Faded Soul, and specifically very influential for Leeser, who was the primary songwriter for Faded Soul. Having known Leeser then and even a few years after, he was a guy that I was always very kind of deep and really thinking about things beyond the day-to-day. So it's kind of more, not rock in the sense of hair bandy, party kind of stuff, but more rock with a twinge of spirituality, existentialism, but it was still kind of rooted in that kind of traditional rocky sound. So maybe Creed was probably the closest, I would think, in terms of a primary influence. So the thing that I found out that I really enjoyed doing was more sort of the things around the band. So I helped them put together a website, helped them do promotional photos, helped get gigs put together and contacting local bands. Eventually, I also helped them film a music video for one of the songs. And for me, those are the things that I think I was finding were fun and creative. And really, I wasn't a very good guitarist, and I was probably less passionate about that than sort of all the other pieces. But as VH1 Behind the Music goes, that's when things changed. Lee, the drummer, had a family, a daughter and a wife, and I think it was increasingly difficult for him to commit to practice times or shows, which are late at night. And so Lee had to eventually leave. So we had another guy come and join. His name was Joseph. He was a drummer. And I just remember him being quite a bit younger than us. And he had a house. And so we started practicing and playing at his house. And we did some more shows and some more recording and had fun with that. And again, as VH1 would say, that's when the story changed again. And one of the things that happened was I decided to leave the band. So, but one of the things I didn't do, I left the band, but that really just meant I stopped playing with them. I was still kind of involved in terms of the website, marketing material, and one of the things I also did was pitch them an idea of doing a music video. I'd put together a concept and chatted with them, and they agreed with it, and so we decided to do a video. And we did a video for a song called The Awakening. And as the story goes, at the time I was dating someone there, and that someone, their grandfather, I believe, was on the city council or somehow involved with the town of Bishop. And Bishop is a small town near Kingsville. And that town had sort of this traditional downtown kind of area, and it was actually pretty run down at the time. And I had actually scouted it and thought it would be a great location for some of the main shots for the video. So kind of through the person I was dating, we kind of worked it out and got approval from Bishop to shoot there. And what was kind of fun is they actually ended up closing the road for us. So it was kind of, we were actually doing most of the principal photography there in the town. We had some barriers and the road was closed. It was, all professional like. So, I mean, we gathered the band, myself, we had a concept, we got friends of friends, co-workers, kids, you name it. And I think our big direction was show up to this town, wear your dirtiest, scungiest clothes you have, and come on over. And so we spent the day shooting. I think we got it mostly in one day. 2004, couple of kids trying to make a little video. Some of it I thought came across, some of it might be confusing. But it was fun. It was really fun. And then I actually moved to Seattle shortly after that. So then I'd spent a couple months after that doing post-production, editing, and all that sort of stuff. And back then we didn't have YouTube, or that really wasn't a thing. And we really didn't have a way to share big files that I remember. So what we did, or at least what I did, is I made DVDs. So I made DVDs of the music video, and I sent it to the band. And I also did some low-res renderings and put it on the website and all that sort of stuff. But that was sort of sometime in 2005, and I actually ended up moving a few times after that. But shortly after, kind of 2008ish, I left the country, and that was the last time I'd seen the video or a lot of the stuff associated with Faded Soul. So we ended up shooting the video in sort of early fall 2004. And shortly thereafter, I moved from Kingsville, Texas to Seattle, Washington. And the band kept going. So I had left. So at this point, you had Joseph, the drummer, Leezer, the lead singer, Dustin, the guitarist, and Danny, the bassist. And I want to say the band kept playing on through 2005 and 2006, or at least a portion of 2006. At some point, I don't exactly remember when, I do know that Danny ended up leaving the band, that was the bassist, and they picked up another bass player named Omar. And I don't think I ever met Omar, I might have. But Omar and Dustin and Leeser and Joseph kept playing as Faded Soul for some time. And I'm not actually sure when the band kind of officially ended. I know that the guys sort of moved in different directions. I know Leeser ended up leaving or moving to a different town and doing some other things. And I haven't seen a lot of those guys in many, many years. Leeser I've seen probably most recently, sort of 2009 or so. But even then it's been a long time since I've seen them. And I look back fondly on that time in Kingsville. I think it was really fun, creative. It's being in this small town, kind of getting to know these guys, although relatively briefly, exploring things like film and photography, music. I think it was a very interesting and fun time. And I really hope you enjoy the next couple of little artifacts from the time capsule and that time and that band, Faded Soul, Kingsville, Texas. Another thing I found in the time capsule are a lot of photos. So whether it was like promotional photos we did, or photos from shows, in studio, or practicing, or even like little graphic design flyers and stuff we did. So one thing I did is I put those all up on a Flickr website. So if you're curious, or maybe you remember the band, or heck, maybe if you were in the band, you can go and check it out. So if you look down at the bottom here in the description, you'll see that I put a link to that. So hopefully if you get a chance, go check it out, take a walk down memory lane, and remember those high-flying days of 2004-ish in the town of Kingsville, Texas.